Well, in just over an hour, the most magical place on Earth partially reopens. Magic Kingdom and Animal Kingdom are opening their doors despite surging COVID-19 cases in Florida, the state seeing more than 11,400 new cases nationwide. The U.S. setting a new record for a third day in a row with more than 66,000 new cases, bringing the total to nearly 3.2 million.
Yes, a lot more testing happening in the United States today. Let's bring in Representative Michael Waltz, House Armed Services Committee, former Green Beret commander. Congressman, Commander, thank you so much for being on the program this morning. So Disney World set to reopen today. I'm glad I won't be there, but a lot of happy people will. When you look at the increase in cases in Florida, of course, it corresponds with increased testing. How do you keep reopening in light of the fact that COVID-19 is, it's still here?
Well, we've tested in Florida about 10% of the overall population, a little over 2 million out of 22 million. So part of the increase is due to the increase in testing. In fact, Health and Human Services just opened a series of surge testing sites around the state. But again, what I'm focused on is on hospitalization and on death rates. Florida, unfortunately, has had almost 4,000 deaths, but that is nothing compared to what we've seen in New York and what we've seen in other places. And the thing that I keep focusing on is we have epicenters within the state of this virus, and those local officials are taking appropriate measures. But what the left wants to see are mandatory statewide actions or mandatory nationwide actions. And comparing the panhandle of Florida, which is very rural, very open, to say downtown Miami, is like comparing Wyoming to I don't know, downtown Manhattan. It is completely different. They've had a completely different experience. And the other piece with Disney opening, Disney employs over 50,000 people in the Central Florida region. Those people have to get back to work. We cannot just keep everything shut down until a vaccine is found. But that's what people like Governor Cuomo are advocating for. That's just not reasonable. That could be another year from now by the time it's fully manufactured and distributed. So we have to find ways to do this safely. Disney is putting precautions in place, from temperature checks to masks to hand sanitizer. And then, there's been a lot of criticism of the convention. We are going to put testing in place so that everybody that comes in the Jacksonville Convention Center into the arena will have been tested that day, or they won't come in.
Yeah, Congressman, obviously a lot of people will be watching Disney see how this unfolds, especially because we're now having these conversations about schools reopening and what the protocol should be and whatnot. I want to shift with you over to 2020 election politics a little bit. President Trump has recently accused Joe Biden of pushing some pro-communist policies. Let's take a listen to what he had to say, and then I want to get your reaction.
Biden wants to defund the police. He wants to call the cops the enemy, which he did the other day, leaving every citizen at the mercy of a socialist mob, or a mob far worse than socialism was ever meant to be. Biden has pledged to reinstate the pro-communist policies of the Obama-Biden administration. They were pro-communist policies. The deal he made with Cuba was ridiculous.
Is that description fair, pro-communist policies of the Obama administration?
Look, I think conservatives, Republicans, reasonably minded independents need to wake up to what is going to happen if Joe Biden is sitting in the White House. There's been a lot of focus on who he's going to pick for vice president because he is weak. He doesn't really have a vision for the country that's going to be the vice president in charge. I don't think that's accurate. It's going to be Nancy Pelosi that is going to run Washington, D.C. She's already basically running the Senate, in addition to the House in terms of the Democrats over there. If we lose the White House, we will probably have lost the Senate. And that first year, she is going to be slamming progressive bills on the president's desk, saying, sign here. This is not hot air out of Bernie or hot air out of AOC. I'm seeing every day in the House the bills that they are passing, Green New Deal provisions, government-run health care, defunding the police, and on and on and on. And those will sail through the Senate right into law. So we need to wake up that this will be the tail wagging the dog. And here's the thing. Pelosi only won her speakership by 2 votes. That means the progressives, when come again this next January, are going to say, Speaker Pelosi, if you want to be Speaker again, they will have her, and those progressive policies will become law in the United States of America. That's why this election is so critical, and we need to turn out and vote on the Republican side.
And Congressman, just with the seconds we have left, your reaction to Biden's economic plan. He, of course, saying buy American, President Trump accusing him of plagiarism. But yet you look within the content of the plan and you see capital gains rising, corporate taxes rising. What would a Biden presidency be for the economy?
Well, it's going to go right back to heavy regulation, high taxes, growth-killing, job-killing policies. And the thing that I think this President Trump, has done that will be transformational for generations is taking on China and taking on unfair trade practices around the world, leveling that playing field, getting the new NAFTA deal, the USMCA in place, and unleashing the American worker, entrepreneurship, things like we just saw in this amazing SpaceX launch that just happened is what this president is about. And I think at the end of the day, this is going to come down to who can get our economy back to where it was, back to where it was soaring for everyone, minorities, women, and everyone else included, and who is going to be tough on China, the existential threat of our next generation.
Amen.
Congressman Michael Waltz, thank you so much for joining us today. We appreciate it.